reading Follow Me to Hell story. How's everyone doing? It's July 2nd. All right. Okay, chapter 3, The Long Republic. Hopes for the peaceful period during which Americans mind their own business were dashed by James Long. The Adam Onis Treaty quickly proved unpopular with men outside Texas who were eager to do business. Otherwise, settlers inside the territory, and one of them was 26-year-old Long, born in Culpeper County, Virginia. He had become the United States Army surgeon and saw action at the end of the War of 1812 in the Battle of New Orleans. Afterward, he had settled Natchez. Because of his army and combat experience, Long was voted to command an expedition that had the high goals of conquering Spanish Texas. Among the 200 men invasion force serving under Long that gathered at Natchez was Jose Felix, a Mexican who had escaped imprisonment for plundering rebellion against the Spanish rules in Mexico, and 23-year-old James Bowie. Originally from Kentucky, Long also attempted to recruit French pirate John Lafitte and his men, but Lafitte turned him down, having too much to do trying to hold on the colony he had established at Galveston. Several of Long's recruits were former French soldiers who had found and quickly abandoned the settlement in Texas known as the Champ Alees in 1818 and were ready to try again. By June, Long expedition have arrived in Texas and captured Nacogdoches. Long was proclaimed the first president of the new Republic of Texas, also called the Long Republic. Despite the initial success, the Surgeon Warrior Independent Republic lasted just 4 months. His army eventually grew restless, and many men returned to the United States. A Spanish force routed Long and his remaining nation borders in October. Despite the president's escape from Natchez, where he began raising money to equip the second expedition, he joined in survivors of the first one in Bolivia, Pennsylvania. In April 1820, confidential or foolish, bring his pregnant wife Jane, and 300 troops. Though Long restored elements of the former government, expedition stalled for more than 1 year as men deserted and were not replaced. On October 4th, 1821, in May 1821, Lafitte and his band of bandits brigades, at the urging of the United States government, finally left Galveston colony. The group they took immense amount of treasure with them. In the 40-year, Lafitte was accompanied by his young bride of a year. Their son, his biracial mistress. Long and his troops seized Presidential Ibarra, but 4 days later, Spanish troops forced them to surrender. Surprising given how Spanish authorities had become American interlopers, James Long was not immediately executed. He was in prison for a long time in San Antonio, across the border of Monterrey in March 1822. He was transported to Mexico City to plead his case before the Mexican president at the time, Augustine Atlas. This was at last the end of the Long, who was shot and killed by a guard on April 8th. It's to believe that the former Mexican who comfortably had been free had bribed the guards to kill Long. The failure of the Long expedition might have demonstrated that white Americans could not success establishment enclave in Texas. But during this time, the Spanish authorities had much bigger worry, losing their group altogether. Back in the home country, President Ferdinand, King Ferdinand, had become king of Napoleon, had been defeated at attempts to rule with the iron fist, who exists enough so that 1820 he was forced to acquire to more liberal constitutional monarchs and attempt to create a similar form of government in Mexico independent of Spain was successful. Mexico politics French encouraged people of varied background who had found their way to Texas in less sensible ways, and then armed expedition to change the complex of the territory. As Ralph Campbell points out in his history of Gone to Texas, by the early 1820s, the lure of Texas had brought truly diversity population to its eastern woodlands. The Natchez area and Hispanic ranchers and farmers and the town proper had merchants of very different natural origin. Anglo-American lived in small settlements and isolated, scattered from Red River southward to Natchez, Pawnee Indian, partially the Alabama Cojedes, Cherokee, Shawnee, Kickapoo, like outnumbered settlement of European origin. And then there was the man who would become the most prominent early American settler of Mexico, Texas. By the time it was established, it was independent. Stephen Austin's journey begins. When her daughter Mary was born, Jan Long enormously claimed this was the first child born in Texas of English descent after her husband's death. Jan left Texas but later returned to stay in the community. Stop there. Next one is Yankee. So, thanks for calling. Appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye now.